Welcome along, one and all. PSGL is back, ladies and gentlemen. Ahead of us tonight is round 9, would you believe it, of PSGL Season 38 PSF3, brought to you by GT Omega. The beginning of the final stretch of races for Season 38 PSF3 takes us to Jeddah. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is what you have to look forward to tonight. To take you through the action this evening, it is your usual PSF3 commentary lineup of myself, Daka, and alongside me, as always, is Ghost. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Daka. It's good to be back after a bit of a break over Christmas and New Year. I hope everyone on the grid and everyone watching had a lovely bit of time off, but we're back onto track now for PSGL PSF3, and yes, we're here in Jeddah at a breakneck circuit where you can never ever lose focus. It's all about keeping the rhythm at this track. And as we've said before on this circuit, some drivers can really show specialty on this particular circuit. It's one of those types of tracks where one driver who's been sort of mid-pack for the whole season can come to Jeddah and suddenly be challenging for pole, and equally drivers challenging for pole on most tracks can come here and be in the mid-pack. So it's going to be interesting to see how the grid is shaken up, if at all, especially in qualifying, and then the race, I'm sure, is going to be very, very interesting indeed, with the DRS trains and the desperation to stay within those 1 second ranges.
It's going to be a cracker. Let's get started then with the flying laps going on with Ivan Escrig, the Spaniard, currently third in the championship, going through the first couple of corners. Take as much curb as you really want to, heading through those first couple of turns, then heading up towards turn 4. This inside wall has claimed many victims in the past, and also that's also very easy to do, invalidating on the outside. So Ivan Escrig's lap then, unfortunately, falling away. So we will look behind with who's the next car on the track.
Slash, but not anymore. Slash taps the wall there through turn 9 and then gets all out of sorts at turn 10. So that's his lap over as well. So now it's over to Spicer in the McLaren, I believe, who's just come through turn 13 and he's going into sector 2 now, Declan.
And NLR Spicer, a driver we have not seen in a long, long time in this tier. So good to see him back on track, ready to get going. Heading round this middle sector now, gearing up towards the very, very high speed turn 22 and 23. Absolute bravery on the exit. Has to get out of the steering a little bit, recorrecting so he doesn't slam into that inside wall and maybe rip off the front left wheel. Manages to stave that off. Of course, you need to just get a clean lap in, a banker lap, and then you can try and push the envelope further along in this session. Out of turn 27, a little bit of contact with that outside wall may cost him a little bit of momentum on the run to the line, but Spicer is going to open things up, and that is a very, very fast banker lap of a 27 flat. Matisse 3.5 tenths of a second slower. NLR Spicer, haven't seen him in a while, but what a way to state your arrival, as AGK Racing goes even faster though. Wow, I did not expect to see times in the 26s, and the man who looked set for victory last time out at Zandvoort, getting this evening off to the perfect start.
Absolutely incredible to see times in the 26, well, one time in the 26s already. Spicer as close as you can possibly be, pretty much. YCN on the grid as well, and in the Aston Martin, he goes to P3 for now. Francesco Largo into P5 as well in the Ferrari. Plenty of laps coming across the line. There's the Haas Vessel going to P7. And then the Mercedes of Steve slots all the way down in P12, a long way off the pace, so I'm sure there's more to come from him. What about Provotox in the Kicksauber coming up to the line now? Will be the last of these opening laps, and he slots in even behind Sieb, so both of them need to find plenty of pace still in this qualifying session, but well, it's a bit of a Kicksauber sandwich at the moment. Well, with Kicksauber being the bread, it's AGK at the top and Provotox at the bottom of those who've set laps, but Lakitu is coming through now, and he'll be the next one to set a time. I don't think Sieb is going again. No, he isn't. So it's all about Lakitu, the only one to watch at the moment. Plenty of others on outlaps, though.
Yeah, we should get more action further down the line. I don't think Lakito's sector times are particularly competitive, and he isn't actually burning any battery, so I don't think this is a fast lap for the Aston Martin driver. On this note, as we have a bit of a waiting game for other drivers to get their laps kicked off, new year of course, and it has brought with us new drivers. We've already seen a couple of them set times. YCN is taking, well, the championship leader, Alex Marciano's place in that Aston Martin for tonight. Big championship news potentially on that front, but we'll have to see how the other drivers are going to get on to see how significant that could prove to be. So the Algerian driver did a very nice opening lap, goes third at the moment, and Francesco Lago is in the Ferrari for tonight as well, and also making a good of account of himself on a 27.3. And of course, well, just a few rounds ago we saw EVE Nico, who's also here tonight, make a huge impression at his first round at Silverstone. So certainly keeping an eye out on these new drivers is going to be, well, certainly a big talking point for tonight, because, well, I think a theme throughout this season has been the newbies really showing up and, well, getting up there straight away and sticking it to the established names.
Absolutely, but we do still have 3 of those established names yet to set a lap. That's Ivan, Triska and Tom. A slash has gone into the wall. I believe that is the entry to turn 3. I'm fairly sure he has probably turned in too early and hit the barrier on the inside. I don't know if you caught that, Decker. Nico's done exactly the same thing on his first lap. 2 drivers within seconds making exactly the same mistake, and they're both out of qualifying, and both of them big names. Well, Nico, a very recent big name, making that incredible impression in Silverstone, but Slash as well, a long time big name of PSF3, both out within seconds of each other, and that is a disastrous start to qualifying for them. Ivan Esquig, meanwhile, is coming into Sector 3. He's got DRS open down towards the final corner, and the VCUB driver looking to get himself far up the grid. We usually expect him to be in the battle for pole. We'll see if he can live up to those expectations today. He's coming to the line now. DRS open, that rear wing flap opens, and across the line for a 26.9, and he goes to second place, and Ivan Esquig towards the top as we expect him to be. What about NLR Tom? He goes P5 for now, but it's not bad at all from both McLarens, 3 and 5 at the moment, and particularly with Alex Marciano out, as you mentioned, Daka, today, Tom has a big opportunity to close down that gap in the driver's standings, and if Alex Marciano isn't careful, he's going to be opening himself up to conspiracy theories that he doesn't like street tracks, because that's Monaco and Jeddah that he has skipped now.
Oh dear. And also having well, his worst result of the entire season at a street track in Canada. He did win the Australian Grand Prix, so maybe don't know, apples and oranges potentially in that regard. But yeah, NLR Tom, we were having this exact discussion a few weeks back, well, maybe about a month back or more now, at the Monaco Grand Prix, and how significant that race was. He didn't capitalise on that occasion with only a P7. This is going to be a very important race, and he's gotten that off to a fairly good start at this stage, currently going into P5, and of course having his teammate back, NLR Spicer, is certainly going to spur him on to potentially scoring big. Could be a big night for McLaren. We'll see if it does eventually turn out that way in the end. Still looking for action out there on the circuit. Spicer is quite far along, but invalidated on that lap, so was setting a decent time to the first 2 sectors, but in the end it's not going to matter for much. And, well, I'm not quite sure what to look for at the moment. I think Matisse is quite far along in the Ferrari, going up towards turn 27. Get as close to that inside wall as you can. Traction so important out of that final corner. You could see the rear tyres threatening to give way, but the Ferrari man holds on to it, and it's a good time too. It goes 6th on a 27.1. You'd expect big gaps here at Jeddah. Typically it's a track of big specialisation, as you said earlier, and you're seeing that to an extent, but a lot of drivers being very comfortable in those very low 27s. I did not expect the quality times to be this fast this early. Wow, I'm so glad we have this grid. It is so high quality, and I can't wait to see what the last 8 minutes have in store here.
And it's so close as well, as Napple improves by 0.2 to go to P9. Just look at those times. Even in a track like Jeddah, where you usually see huge gaps in qualifying times, even here we've got less than half a second between the top 8. And we've got AGK and Ivan less than a tenth between them for pole, and then Spicer not far behind. This is fantastic stuff, and if I know anything about Jeddah qualifying sessions in racing leagues, as Vettel improves by 1 position up to P9, there's going to be some big improvements. Well, usually either a lot of big improvements in the final runs or a lot of failed laps, and sometimes both. So it's going to be a breakneck final few minutes. We've still got 7.5 minutes to go, so plenty of action still to come in this qualifying session. AGK at the top, but he will not be feeling comfortable at all.
No, certainly not, and had to back out of that second run, invalidated, so that leaves the door open to some extent. But AGK Racing, what a turn-up in qualifying form it has been for the reserve driver in PSF3, storming to the top just like he did at Zandvoort when he took that stunning pole position right at the death. This time, getting up there from the beginning. We'll see if that is going to hold fast, though, because there's a lot of very, very impressive talent to chase down. But as Ghost alluded to, very small margins for error around this track, and you could see a lot of failed laps, could see some crashes. We've already seen 2 drivers coming off at that inside barrier of turn 3. It catches so many drivers off guard, claims so many victims, just like the casino section in Monaco. And yeah, that's going to be something to look out for in both qualifying and the race, but especially in these last 6 minutes as drivers push the limits more and more. We're waiting for a lot of drivers to get their next runs underway. A lot of drivers are on outlaps, so we're going to get things wrapped up very soon. But I believe Triska, who's a fringe title contender at the moment in that Alpine, hasn't had a good run of it in the last couple of races, needs to try and turn things around. Certainly a driver that can pull a great lap out of the bag in qualifying. We know that very well by now. The Dutchman is fast, but not maybe right up there, having to battle that rear end heading through turns 22 and 23. My oh my, the commitment through there is extraordinary from all of these drivers, as it needs to be, as now Triska lining up that final corner. Red Bull will get in the way slightly, maybe get into the eye line, but he will continue on nevertheless in that Alpine. Let's see, currently 4th in the standings, needs a big boost here. Can he get into the upper echelons of the grid? Yes, he can. It's a 127 flat, goes into P4 on the second row, ahead of Edelar Tom, which I think he'll be particularly pleased with. And Triska finally gets his session off to a strong start. A lot of work to do still, and he'll need to get a quick turnaround to get another lap in, but Triska is up there, but we'll see what the other drivers can do on their runs at this point in the session.
Yeah, that was definitely a sort of medium pressure lap there from Triska. He needed to get something on the board, and it was very good indeed. Into the top 4, he'll be happy with that, and he's still got plenty of time to go again after invalidating his first run earlier on. Zviadek as well, while we were watching Triska's, has gone to P9, which is a big improvement for the Red Bull driver, so he'll be happy with that. And again, look how close these times are. That half-second margin to pole is now extended to the top 11 drivers. And there's plenty more laps to come. We've got Francesco Largo coming across the line. Big improvement for him. Could it be pole? It is! 26.830. Over 4.5 tenths improvement from the Ferrari driver. That's incredible from the newcomer to the PSF3 grid. What can AGK do, though? He is 2 tenths up through the middle sector. This could be outrageous from the Kick Sauber driver. He loses the rear slightly through turns 22 and 23. But he's just about okay. He's got plenty of ERS left in the tank as well. Who is going to take pole? AGK, definitely a big favourite here. He comes around the final corner, just under 4 minutes to go in the session, slides the rear out on the exit, and that's cost him too much time. And that just shows you how small the margins are on this circuit. 2 tenths up in the middle sector, but 2 minor mistakes in the last couple of braking zones, and that is lap over, as Luca Lib out of nowhere as well goes to P4 in the VCARB, making it a VCARB second row lockout at the moment. And these times are just getting more and more competitive now, with Francesco Largo coming out of nowhere to take pole. Matisse invalidates in the other Ferrari. Meanwhile, what about IRT Nick? He's coming through to the final corner. Let's see if he can do any better than he is now. He's down in 14th right now.
Exiting that final corner, tricky traction zone, gets onto that loud pedal and opens up the DRS. Let's see what the time is going to be. 27.5 at the moment, 27.1 now. Fournette gets into the mix. NP7 at the moment, just heading up that fourth row as it stands. Luca Lib is the third debutant that I don't think we've mentioned up to this point, and well, all three of these guys inside the top 8, making a big impression as Nick decides to bring the session to a close. Actually, that was on track, nevertheless. Again, at that same point that we saw Slash and Nico coming off. I'm not sure if he had enough time regardless to get another lap in, but nevertheless that's going to bring next session to a close, as now we're going to see a lot of other drivers heading back out onto the track, led by the two McLarens, NLR Spicer, NLR Tom. We'll see what they are able to do. Big pressure lap for Tom too, who slid down to P9 in the session standings at the moment. Needs a big one to try and move up. Remember, he doesn't want a repeat of that Monaco Grand Prix, so just over 2 minutes on the clock. Lots of drivers gearing up. The final runs at Jeddah, it is going to be electric. Let's see what is going to happen. So led by NLR Tom, second in the championship. Big night for him. We'll see what he can do. But my oh my, the anticipation has to be at an all-time high in this session, because we've got a lot to look forward to, Ghost.
Yeah, absolutely we do, and this race is going to be electric with these times so close. But NLR Tom, big pressure lap for him. This is the second time now that he's had a huge opportunity with the championship leader not on the grid today, and here he is. He's down in 9th. We're getting a bit of deja vu here, perhaps, from the Monaco race a few weeks ago, over a month ago, I think now. And NLR Tom, he's got to deliver here, because if he ends up further down in quali, if he's out of the top 10, he's going to find it very difficult to get his way back up in on this circuit. You can get very long DRS trains with not much room for maneuver here in Jeddah, as NLR Tom goes through sector 1. A lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's got to get these corners right. He's flat through 7 and 8, and through turn 9 a little bit of a lift, but flat through 10. Lovely stuff from NLR Tom. Let's see what it is on the stopwatch though. It's quick. Just under a tenth up. That is very quick, and he comes into the middle sector with a lot of pressure to do. He's got that green delta on his screen, so he'll be happy to see that, but he's only using medium battery, which presumably means that he's just going to light it up. There we go, towards the latter part of the circuit with the long straight. Here we go. 54, 55. Let's see, can he get it under a minute for the middle sector? Because that would be, that's the real tester. He can. 59.9, but he's very wide at turn 21. And that is a very, very tricky corner to get right. And Tom, especially with such a low green delta, there's so much pressure on his shoulders. He comes to the final corner now. What can the McLaren driver do? He's got to finish the lap at least. He comes through, no rear end loss on the exit, and he comes down to the line. What's it going to be for NLR Tom? Can he get himself further up? Yeah, but it's only P7, and that mistake at turn 21 I think has cost him quite dearly there. Spicer improves as well, only to P3. AGK takes an emphatic pole position for now, but who else is improving, Daka?
Let's see out there on the track at the moment. Well, let's see who's further along, coming up towards the line. Zvidek in the Red Bull is nearly 0.2 of a second up. Currently P12 on a 27.2, goes 9th on a 27.1. Lost a little bit in that last sector though. Vessel goes into position number 12 further down the track. Ivan Eskrig was slightly up in the middle sector, but nothing doing in that last sector. Invalid. IRT needs a big lap, but stays in P15. Who is going to be next up to take it on? YCN in the Aston Martin, great lap, goes 4th on a 26.8, and behind Triska goes 5th on a 0.9. Francesco Lago has it validated in the Ferrari. The other Ferrari of Matisse is up and actually going extremely fast, under a minute too, throughout that final sector, second sector time. Let's see, this could jump him right up the order, goes into position 8 on a 27 flat. What a lap from AGK, a 26.6. That is unbelievable, and I have checked, that time would have got pole position in PSF2. That is how good that was from AMS AGK Racing. By the standards of PSF3, demolishing the grid. I did not for a second believe we'd see a pole time that fast. And well, 2 on the trot for AGK Racing. Can he convert this one?
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, this just what we were talking about earlier about this being a specialist track. You just get drivers really turn up at these kind of circuits, and AGK does so under the lights in Jeddah. But NLR Tom was pushed back to 10th in the end, and he's got a lot of work to do, and he's going to be thinking it's Monaco all over again. But he's got more chances to get up the grid, at least around here, than he is around Monaco, but it's still going to be a big ask for the German driver. But yeah, AGK on pole position once again, but it's the newbie Francesco Largo on the front row with him, with Spicer in P3 and another newbie YCN on the second row with him. Triska and Ivan on the third row. That's a very stacked third row there, as NLR Tom a lot of work to do, and the rest of the drivers as well. A lot of drivers not able to set a lap time in that session, and again, that just proves how difficult qualifying is around this circuit.
Absolutely, is such a small margin for error, and well, if it's not the walls, there's certainly, you wouldn't maybe think it at a street circuit, but there are certainly lots of places to invalidate around this track. And yeah, you saw, I think, turns 22 and 23, you said how difficult those corners were, and well, maybe for NLR Tom, we did see him missing the apex there, and that probably turned out to be very costly in the end. Margins so tight here, so that's what we're going to be looking forward to in the Grand Prix itself here at Jeddah. I cannot wait to get it underway. Racing here at this track, I don't know, Ghost, maybe you can think of something else, but I don't know if there's another track on the calendar that has as many grandstand finishes as you get here.
Yeah, definitely. I think Silverstone is probably a rival for that title. But yeah, around here, and maybe Baku as well. But it's just because the way the last couple straights are, you've got a long straight into the final corner with DRS where you've got to make a decision. Do you commit to the overtake and become vulnerable out of the last corner, or do you try and get through the last corner with the best exit possible and then get them with the DRS down to the line? It's really risky, and it depends what kind of driver you are, really, for what you prefer in that situation. Because some drivers would definitely prefer to be behind and to have the DRS and go for it out the final corner, and then others would want to be ahead and want to get the best exit they can and just burn everything they have to keep the other driver behind. I'm one of those. I would prefer to be ahead, but I've lost many races with that philosophy. So it's such a fine line to walk and such a difficult balance. And the race leader the race leader and the driver in second place in particular, if they are close together, out of turn 22, has got a big decision to make on the final lap. So yeah, it's so good for grandstand finishes around here, like you said, and here's hoping we get another one today. I mean, last season we saw it go very wrong. It was a grandstand finish, but certainly not in the way some people would have hoped it would be, particularly the top two. So we'll see if something like that happens again. I hope it's a little cleaner this time, if it does.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up that finish as well from last season because of how significant it also turned out to be in the eventual championship. Of course, we do have one driver here who was involved in that incident, NLR Spicer. Certainly be hoping for a different ending this time around. But now, as we have a bit of a downtime, just a quick shout out to GT Omega, who sponsor PSGL. GT Omega, as always, is down in the video description. If you want to purchase any of their products, you can use the code PSGL at checkout for a 5% discount. Make sure to have a look because they help us out a ton in essence. So now we can look forward to this race, and well, I don't know what to say really. It is a race that, as we said, tends to play out in a way that we get a grandstand finish, but at the front, I think we can say it's quite predictable in the way it plays out. Usually, you just see the top two drivers maybe exchanging the places at the front, and maybe it ramping up towards the end when the tensions begin to rise. But obviously this is a track, another proponent of the DRS trains. So how does it work further down the field then for drivers that will maybe be looking to move up, such as NLR Tom, and gain some points then? Because well, overtaking back there isn't quite as easy.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got to be patient and take their opportunities when they come. They can't force their way through because they'll just end up getting damage, especially around here. You've just got to keep calm, stay patient, and hope the cars ahead of you don't lose track with the lead train, because then you're in a bit of trouble unless you get a safety car. But yeah, NLR Tom is got a lot of work to do, and this isn't the first time he's given himself a lot of work to do after a qualifying session. So he's at least used to it this season, but we'll see if he can deliver today, because he did not deliver as he would have hoped to in Monaco. But yeah, if you get drivers ahead of you battling, it can be the best tactic to just wait for something to go wrong ahead of you with a battle, or wait for cars to slow each other down and then try and sweep through. But there's not very many places you can do that, so I think we'll certainly have some final corner shenanigans over the course of this race, particularly from those trying to move up the grid. But yeah, it's a big race for NLR Tom. It's a 15-point gap to Alex Marciano, and he's going to want to close that down as much as he can. And Ivan Eskrig as well, he's going to have the championship in mind. He's a bit further back, but if he can close the gap to Tom, he will, of course, obviously as well close the gap to Alex. And I think Alex will be much happier defending a championship lead from one driver than he would be from two. So Ivan hoping to pile some pressure on the championship leader today.
Absolutely. Starting in position 6 on the grid. I'll run you through the grid as well, because I don't think we quite got a chance to do that earlier. So it's SAGK Racing on pole position from debutant Francesco Lago. Next up behind that, you have the Austrian NLR Spicer on his return alongside YCN, another debutant. The third row, Triska and Ivan Eskrig, two outsiders in the championship fight, looking to try and make gains in this round. Then there's another debutant, Luca Lib, with him EVE Matisse on the fourth row, and in the fifth row is made up by Spyros and significantly NLR Tom. Behind that is Zvidek and Nick just outside the top 10. Then Vessel, Napple, Sieb and Provatox were the rest of the drivers to set times. That's the top 16. Then after that you have Lakitu / Mattia Manga and Nico, who, let's be honest, all had sessions to forget in qualifying. So that is the tail of the tape. That is the state of play ahead of this Jeddah Grand Prix. Wow, Ghost, I'm going to come to you. Just how do you see this race playing out at the front? Who do you think can take this one home?
It can play out one of two ways. It can be a simple swap of DRS between the top two for quite a while, and then get more ferocious later. But if one driver within the top 3 or 4 decides to go for it and put some pressure on, instead of just sitting back and watching it all happen and waiting to pounce later, then we could get some serious action in the opening stint. But otherwise, if everyone plays neat and tidy for the first stint, I think it's going to be the second stint where things really start coming alive. But I think the mid-grid, certainly in the first stint, is going to be the place to watch, especially with NLR Tom and others who didn't even get to settle up, especially EVE Nico as well at the bottom, and Slash as well. So we'll see what they can do, but we're nearly about to get underway, and I cannot wait to see how this race pans out. It's going to be a cracker, Daka.
Absolutely, and of course we only have 3 rounds to go after this one. Just a reminder, that is Suzuka, Vegas and Bahrain. That is what you have to look forward to after this round is done. When we get this race cleared up, we can look forward to that, see what the state of play is after this race. It could be vastly different from what it is now. That is what is so intriguing and so fascinating about this Saudi Arabia Grand Prix at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, which should just be seconds away. The drivers are just about making their final preparations, then managing fuel loads, tyre strategies. Typically this race is a hard tyre start for pretty much everyone. I think that's what you can expect to see on the grid, but we'll see if anyone deviates from that. We shall see, but nevertheless, we're going to get this race underway with 5 lights in Jeddah. And the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is go from the front of the grid. AGK leads away, and what a start he has gotten. He shoots off into the distance then, ahead of Francesco Lago in second place. Spicer and YCN disputing that third place. The Aston Martin gets squeezed right out, as are the rest of the drivers. Jockey for possession hanging towards the turn 4.
Tom in the wall! Tom in the wall at turn 3! He's gone down tried to go down the inside of IRT Nick, and he's gotten it all wrong. And it's an early lunge from Tom that's gone horribly wrong. He's got no front wing, and it's a disastrous start for the man in second place in the championship, and this is exactly what he did not need. He had to stay calm, at least on the opening lap, but he's just braked a little too late for turn 3, trying to have the inside of Zviadek, and well, we can see the result. That is going to be an early pit stop, and Tom is going to be kicking himself. Another fantastic opportunity. There is still a long way to go in this race, but he's certainly going to feel at this point that it's another fantastic opportunity to close down the gap to Alex. Gone down the drain.
Oh my goodness, NLR Tom, how significant could that prove to be in these standings? We immediately get back to green flag racing, and Tom of course is going to get swapped down the back of the field. No front wing is a nightmare to get around. He manages to stay out of the way of the rest of the drivers, thankfully, but NLR Tom, and well, we're relying on a full safety car surely from this point forward. I do have to apologise for my horrendous stutter at the start of the race, by the way. Nevertheless, heading over to lap 2, and it is AGK Racing leading the way and trying exactly what he tried at Zandvoort, starting on the mediums and going from the front, trying to break away. We have a couple of early pit stops, then wonder if there was more damage down there. We have 5 cars in the pit lane then, and all suffering blows to this race. Sieb decides to retire, bring his race to a close straight away. Provatox has gone into soft tyres. I'm not exactly sure why, but he gets this race back underway for himself in that Kick Sauber. So, well, that is what the start at Jeddah can bring, and well, those 4 guys who have come in and stayed in the race, they are going to have to try and work their way back in as best they can, but ultimately hoping for good fortunes and potentially safety cars further down the line. Up in front, Spyros moves past Luca Lib. You can see the effect of those medium tyres though off the start, because AGK is using them to good effect and is putting the second place man Francesco Lago under all sorts of pressure early on.
Yeah, all those drivers who pitted were all chain reaction victims of the Tom incident. All the drivers behind just got clattered into the chaos in front of them, as Triska gets a track limits penalty already on lap 2. That is not a good start for the Alpine driver, but plenty of drivers getting close towards the final corner, but I don't think any of them are going for a move. Matisse, no, he does. He lunges to the inside of Ivan Eskrig in the Ferrari. There's a little bit of contact to squeeze from Ivan, but they've just about gotten through okay, as AGK Racing at the front though with those medium tyres as Spicer gets past Francesco Lago. And is it just me, Daka, or are you getting flashbacks to the last race we had where AGK started on the softer tyres to everyone else, built up a huge lead, and then looked like the favourite to win the race later on? I don't know if that's going to happen again today, but he's certainly doing a good job of building that gap for now. But look who's into the top 10. EVE Nico on the back of the grid into 10th place. What a start on those medium tyres it's been for him. He expertly avoided the carnage that was the incident with Tom, Nick and others, and he is up into the top 10. It's paid dividends, but he does have a big gap to catch. Oh, just as I praise him, he nearly bins it into the wall at turn 13. I don't know how he managed to save that, but great car control to do so. But he is now going to be under pressure with the DRS of Napple going into the final sector, although he just has so much more grip. You can see just riding a ball with Napple, there's on corner exits, Nico just gets so much more traction, but it's not enough to compete with the DRS though, as Matisse goes down the inside of Ivan Esquig. That Ferrari driver is on a mission today, as the other Ferrari driver as well, Francesco Largo, into P2 further up as they swap positions further ahead, but it's all going the way of the carnage in the first stint, which I'm glad that was the prediction that came true, as Spicer goes down the inside now into turn 1, and YCN nearly into the back of the Ferrari just ahead, but they just about survive. And all these drivers with the hard tyres, they're just losing more and more time to AGK the more they're battling, and the Kick Sauber driver will be very pleased to see this in his rearview mirrors.
Oh, certainly 2.5 seconds now, the gap between himself and NLR Spicer. And well, Spicer has managed to get through relatively cleanly. He and Francesco have just been swapping possessions when it's been suitable, but you can see the extra speed of those medium tyres and the phenomenal race pace of AGK. This is looking eerily similar to last race at Zandvoort. Certainly for the Romanian, he'll be hoping for a much different end to the race, but it is so rare to see a driver taking command at Jeddah. What, again, he's so quick off the mark, makes those softer tyres work very well. It's maybe not the theoretically fastest strategy, I'm not sure, as I'm not sure what what's taken your eye, Ghost.
That was Napple. Goodness me, at turn 17 he just kicked on the curb and lost the rear, and it was almost identical to Nico, just about managed to save the car, just at a different corner, and he's survived, but he has lost the place to Vessel as a result, as another swap for P2, Francesco Largo getting up there. And now we see, once they stop battling hard, the DRS starts to come into play, and they are reeling in AGK again. Back down to 2.4 seconds is the gap now, as Spicer retakes P2, as those two are working together very closely now to try and chase down the leader of this race. Slash getting past Napple as well. He's on the move as well in the Williams, after starting from the back of the grid up into P12, but as we see, Nico has lost a second to Luca. That is how strong the DRS is, and there's not much that the Mercedes driver can do except hope for something else to happen in this race, but that is certainly something. AGK track limits penalty on lap 5, and the pressure of that gap coming down, clearly getting to him as he nearly loses it again at the same corner that it happened to Nico. And speaking of whom, he's down to P11 after getting overtaken by Vessel. But yeah, AGK, I think the pressure is starting to get to him, and the pole sitter is hemorrhaging time on the DRS straights.
Has lost at the best part of a second in the last lap and a half to that chasing pack, who are now working very well together in full cohesion. Spicer has phenomenal pace now at the front in that McLaren once he's gotten settled in, and the rest of the drivers are under pressure and battling each other. Look at Triska, who's under pressure again from YCN, and in turn is closing in on Francesco up towards the final corner, and Triska's left the door open to the inside. YCN and the Dutchman has to go wide, nearly runs into the back of the Ferrari and nearly into the Aston Martin too, as they almost come together at the exit of turn 27. YCN though is going to have to be on the defensive now. Triska wants to try and get revenge straight away, moves to the outside now, trying to gain the initiative into turn 1, but YCN is aggressive, forces him to the very outer regions of the track, and there's contact between them, and still side by side towards turn 3. Surely something has to give, someone has to yield. Neither of them do, and they both run off the road. Triska holds the place. I'm not sure if YCN's going to be happy with that. He gives it back up though, and Matisse comes alongside the Alpine, squeezes him onto the curb, and Triska loses another position. I think he'll be glad though that he didn't end up in the wall for his troubles. My goodness, what an exchange. And look at Spyros to try and put the pressure on Ivan Esquig now, heading in towards turn 13, gets up and alongside using the grip, and another slap of oversteer from Triska up in front, banging wheels, the V-Carb and the Red Bull. Triska in front of Ivan, in front of Spyros, who had to yield out of all of that. Luca Leb watching in the back in the second V-Carb, wondering what on earth is going on. Well, this train would civilise for a moment. Look at Luca heading towards the outside into turn 22, and Spyros wisely decides he does not want any part of that. He gets a better run out of turn 23 and maybe looking to counterattack. He may have to settle in now, and after, well, that exchange, shall we say, we've created another break in the train as Matisse moves past YCN and towards P4, and Spicer and Francesco, who have been, well, a picture of calm and serenity, they have managed to profit here, and they have moved well clear after what on earth happened on the last lap, and it's still going on towards turn 1. Look at this. Ivan Eskrig looks to the inside but decides to think better of that one, has his teammate all over him. Maybe these guys can try and settle down, because that was so costly for every driver involved.
I'll tell you what, Matisse is the most exciting driver to watch so far this race. He has been carving his way through cars, and any gap that appears, he has taken it, and taken it very well indeed. I mean, who is going to take that gap in Sector 1 when Triska is a little bit wide and out of sorts through Turn 7? Who on earth is going to take that gap? Well, Matisse is on those medium tyres. He's up to 4th place. What a first stint he's been having so far. He's only 1.3 behind the 2 in front now, and Matisse is looking extremely quick on those yellow wall tyres. AGK has kept the gap at around 2 seconds the last few laps, so he's doing better than he was a few laps ago, as Ivan Eskrig now gets his way past Triska into P6. But it's all happening, but sadly for the drivers trying to challenge the championship leader in terms of points, it's not really going well for any of them at the moment. Obviously NLR Tom, but Ivan and Triska have also been hemorrhaging positions. Nappel and Slash also going wheel to wheel further back, but it's all about this train for 4th place at the moment. It is all happening here.
And now Ivan Eskrig threatening YCN and a pull run out of the last corner, but now DRS kicks in. It's Matisse under pressure. Look at this, it's going to be 3 abreast into the entry of turn 1. There's not enough space for all 3 of them, surely. Somehow they all stay on the track. Out of turn 2 they go. Matisse holds on to the place. That was incredible driving from all 3 of them. And Ivan Eskrig slots in front of YCN. He gains a place out of all of that. I have no idea how all 3 of them managed to get round that corner side by side. It's barely big enough to fit 2 cars. Matisse holds on to P4. It's yet another big time loss for these guys, but wow, what a moment. 3 wide into that first chicane, absolutely stunning stuff. Ivan does gain one of those places back, now looking to try and threaten Matisse, but that was a gap. Matisse was clawing his way back, trying to get to DRS range of that 2nd place, 3rd place duo of Spicer and Francesco, but that was a big setback for all of those guys. YCN looked hesitant at first, and Ivan just went in for it, managed to get a place out of that, but yeah, I have no idea how all 3 of those guys are still in the right direction.
I think there's going to be a lot of talk in the Discord paddock about something to do with racing IQ from some of the drivers who've lost out here in this train after this race, because look at the gap to Francesco and Spicer now. It's opened up to 3 seconds as YCN goes around the outside of Matisse at the final corner. Matisse gives him just enough room. That was nearly both of them in the wall there, but they've just about survived, and now they head towards turn 1, and the gap to Ivan decreases and more as they head towards the corner, but Ivan just about survives the onslaught. YCN remains on the inside for turn 2. They're going to go side by side. Can Triska find his way there as well? No, he sensibly backs out, and Matisse takes the inside and takes turn 3 in 5th place. But goodness me, this is all kicking off in the middle of the field, and Luca Lib is just going to be sitting there thinking, well, my first race in PSF3 this season, and goodness me, if it's like this for the rest of the season, I'm in for a treat. But Provatox is our next victim of this Grand Prix. He retires in the pit lane after I would say erroneously choosing those soft tyres earlier on after the early pit stop, but you can't take your eyes off these drivers in the battle for P4 at the moment. It is all kicking off. Spicer and Francesco perfectly calm and reasonable. If you just watch them, you think this race is a bit of a snooze fest, because they're just, you know, swapping positions very calmly and trying to catch up to AGK, and then you look behind, it's absolute bedlam for P4.
And still continuing, because YCN is on the attack. It's these 2 drivers who have been the catalyst. They have been going at it. YCN to the outside, but he stays in it on the brakes. He does not want to lose out on those medium tyres, but surely he's done for traction. And look at that, YCN gets around the outside. He'll be looking to try and move further up the order. Matisse gets out of the train immediately, probably wisely, with the way these guys are battling, as YCN pulls to the inside of Ivan, and Ivan is under pressure too from Triska, who looks to the inside, but he's hesitant, and it looks as though he's going to... Oh, there's contact! back. Luca runs into the side of the Alpine. They managed to just about stay in the right order, and I think Triska, with the battery he has too, should be able to recover. But that was certainly a scary moment for the man in 4th place in the standings at the moment, as he was trying to threaten the man in 3rd place in the standings. Of course, opportunity for both these guys, but it's been a frustrating night so far for the pair of them. YCN now leads this train once again, but it's Matisse we've got to keep an eye on then. He's emerged in plenty of clean air, 11 seconds behind Slash on those hard tyres. Can he bring them in, and can he use this undercut potentially to clear that train, maybe even get his way up towards the top 3 in the race? And speaking of the top 3, Spicer and Francesco, that everlasting swapping, it is paying off, and they are slowly but surely working themselves ever closer towards the race leader, AGK Racing.
And it's even more woe for NLR Tom as he gets a track limits penalty down in 16th place. And, well, he hasn't even cleared Matisse there. He's well down on the Ferrari driver who's just stopped. So, yeah, the safety car desperately needed for NLR Tom and anyone else involved in that collision, as AGK gets an awful exit out the last corner and comes straight into the pits. Yeah, he's, I think, had the thought of, well, if the rest of my lap goes like that, it's not going to be good. So he's come into the pit lane for some fresh hard tyres. There's more chaos going on for now P3 after the pit stop from AGK. Ivan Eskrig now has gotten to the lead of that train. But where's AGK going to come out? Where's Matisse? He's coming down towards turn 1, and AGK is well ahead as he comes out on those hard tyres. But how far behind exactly is Matisse? I think he's going to be about 6 seconds or so as he comes out turn 2, 6.5. So yeah, it's all about those top 3 for the lead of the race. And well, Matisse will need that train for P3 to continue to have their chaotic battling, because otherwise he's going to lose out because he's not going to have the DRS.
And some very important laps ahead for AGK here, it must be said now, on fresh hard tyres to try and establish more of a buffer to Francesco and Spicer. Of course, that is, well, the medium runners have decided to make that stop on lap 10. It'll probably be a couple more laps before you'll see the majority of the hard runners coming in. Maybe that'll prove to be wrong. We shall see, as Francesco and Spicer will swap again towards turn 27. This is what you're used to seeing probably in Jeddah races early on. But of course, very atypical further down the grid, and it's still going on. Look at Triska, a huge lunge into turn 27. Wow. Is he going to get 2 in 1? Big oversteer though, out of that final corner, and he may lose both those 2 places and more, because look at Luca, threading the needle, goes towards the inside. Is he going to get 3 in 1? Luca and YCN, wheel to wheel into the first corner. YCN very, very late on the brakes and will hold on to that 3rd position. Ivan seeing off Triska further back. What on earth are these guys up to? Was that Luca? Luca, did he hit the inside wall? Yes, yeah, he has. He's managed to get away with just end plate damage, but this is going to be so costly for the driver sat behind him through this very high downforce. First sector, Ivan and Triska have nowhere to go.
AGK's out
of the race. Unbelievable. The net race leader has gone into the wall at an infamous turn 3. Oh my goodness. AGK Racing is another heartbreak for the Kick Sauber driver. The Romanian dominated the opening laps of this race, and it has all fallen apart in an instant. That is how cruel Jeddah can be. My oh my, both Kick Saubers out of the race, but AGK Racing, what heartache for him. He's led this race from the start. A very quick VSC period gets us back underway. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe what a development in this race. It completely changes the prospect of that leading battle, especially for Francesco and Spicer, and both of their evenings just get better and better.
They certainly do, and Luca has been absolutely swamped on the straight there down towards the final corner, but Ivan will be desperately hoping he gets DRS from the driver in front, and he hasn't done. He's lost it to YCN, and now he's going to be extremely vulnerable to Triska. Luca comes in for front wing change and fresh tyres, of course, but Triska and Ivan both stay out on those hards, and it's Triska up to P3 now, and well, no more DRS from YCN in front of them, and you have to think surely they'll come in at the end of this lap, but who knows what they might do. Francesco and Spicer still staying out. They're 5.5 seconds ahead of these two as they go through sector 1. It's a big mistake from Ivan Eskrig, gets on the curb at the exit of turn 8. Such an easy mistake to make, but it's oh so costly. He's outside the 1 second range, and now he has to really push to get back in it towards the last couple of DRS zones. Even if he's pitting this lap, he's still going to lose so much time if he doesn't get DRS here, and it's going to be very close. The detection point's coming up through this corner now, and I don't think he got it, Daka. I think it was just a few hundredths away, and no DRS for Ivan down this straight, but if he gets it down to the final corner, he'll be just about okay, I think. But it's all going to be about where they come out after the pit stops, because YCN has come out 2 seconds ahead of Matisse on the medium tyres.
And let's see what he can do with that. I wonder why. That is remarkable on the part of YCN and maybe Matisse. I mean, he's been caught by Spyros as Spicer comes into the pits from the lead. This could be so important because the top two pitting on different laps. Fresh mediums on the outlap. Spicer will be fancying his chances, I think. Let's see how that is going to unfold. Behind, Ivan Eskrig also comes in too. And the two Haas's running behind Vessel comes into the pit lane too. Those two Haas's, by the way, were just calmly exchanging positions themselves and have carved themselves decent opportunities later on in this race. Now let's see what the state of play is going to be. Spicer comes out of the pits in clear air. Here is YCN, and he is going to come out just in front, I believe, of Ivan Eskrig. Not just in front, well out in front. Matisse seems to be really struggling on these hard tyres and is now actually behind. Still has been overtaken by Spyros as Luca Lib gets, I believe, a second time penalty in this race. But these guys really struggling. And yeah, the undercut onto the hard tyres hasn't proved to be so effective. Surely the mediums will prove to be different. But yeah, YCN, you can see how much that one lap undercut has paid off, because now the Aston Martin driver sits 2.5 seconds clear of his nearest rival on the track, Ivan. So that one lap undercut onto the mediums, very important. And for NLR Spicer, well, that man could be licking his lips right now.
Matisse was a beast on the medium tyres, but on the hards he just does not have the pace at all. He's been caught and overtaken by Spyros, and then he went very wide at turn 3. He's just got no confidence in the car on these tyres, it seems, and he's still got the DRS to Spyros, but the way he's driving, he's going to be worried that he won't have it for much longer. Spyros now challenging Ivan for P6. He seems a lot more comfortable on the hard tyres in that Red Bull, as Francesco comes in from the lead of the race. Triska coming in as well, just behind. What about Mattia Manga? Is he in as well? He is indeed. So that means Spicer will now be leading this Grand Prix unless Francesco comes out ahead of him. It's going to be very close. Here comes Francesco out the pit lane now. Has that outlap paid dividends for Spicer? It looks like it has. He is quite far ahead of the Ferrari and well over a second, and this could be huge for Spicer. 1.5 seconds now. And Francesco has got to nail this opening part of the track on cold tyres to get back in range. Spicer in control of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and Triska's out. It's turn 3 again. Turn 3 claims another victim. Yeah, that's his 4th of the day at least, and Triska out of this Grand Prix and surely out of the championship battle as well. He was already on the fringes, but that seals the deal. Triska, he had such a good middle part this season, but the last few rounds it just hasn't come off, and he is out this race. And Nick as well out of turn 3 as well, and
we finally
got a safety car. NLR Tom will be thanking his lucky stars. That's another victim of turn 3, and it's casino at Monaco all over again, Daka. Triska and Nick within seconds of each other on the same lap, both out at the same corner. And NLR Tom back in this race. He will be very, very thankful indeed. And Spicer's gap that he worked so hard to get over Francesco is vanquished in an instant. He will be not particularly happy with the timing of that safety car, but YCN and Ivan Eskrig will be very happy indeed.
Absolutely, my oh my, the fight for the win could well be thrown into another dimension. Spicer, yes, the advantage of that undercut wiped out in an instant, as you said. The championship hopes of Triska all the same, and also the race of IRT Nick in that Williams. Drivers taking advantage of this to come into that pit lane. Matisse, who, well, I will think will be very glad to get medium tyres back on, along with Nico Napel, can get fresh mediums on and can be very dangerous in the laps to come as well. Spyros has decided to stay out in the Red Bull. He's looked very good on those hards, but is he going to be vulnerable with such a raw pace disadvantage in terms of tyres? Because all the drivers further back getting fresh ones on. Slash has gone for soft tyres. That's rather interesting. We'll see if they can go the distance. That should be an awful long way. And NLR Tom, as you said, right back in play. He does have a 3-second time penalty. It's going to be difficult to even salvage points, but at the very least he's in that fight, and we'll see if he can make anything of it. Desperate times to try and pull something back in that fight. Another driver that's going to be very happy with the way this has played out is another fringe championship contender, Ivan Eskrig, who, well, first of all, the gap toward YCN that was established through that undercut from the Algerian, that has been wiped out as well, and he's also looking at the race leaders as well. And on top of that, Spyros behind, being on the oldest and the hardest tyres in the field. You have to think Ivan Eskrig, maybe these, other than Tom, maybe the single biggest beneficiary of this safety car.
Yeah, absolutely, and EVE Nico in the Mercedes as well, but I think that shows just how uncomfortable Matisse was on those hard tyres. He's sacrificed a lot of track position to get himself off them and back on the mediums, and we saw how aggressive and electric he was in the first stint on the mediums. He'll be hoping to repeat that, but it's not going to be as easy this time because everyone else is also going to be on those mediums except for Spyros, of course. So Matisse has got a lot of work ahead of him, but yeah, Spyros, you have to think he's going to be absolutely swamped here. And every driver that started on the mediums, this race has not panned out particularly well for them. Spyros is in a good position at the moment, but he is going to be under a ton of pressure in these last few laps. And yeah, it seemed like starting on the hards was the way to go, although some of the people who started on mediums haven't had bad races because of the strategy, such as AGK, but yeah, it's looking tough for Spyros and Matisse at this point after they both looked so strong earlier on.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see if Matisse in particular can pull off some of those monster moves that we've seen. And, well, I wonder what Spicer and Francesco are going to think of having YCN, another driver who has been so hard charging in this race, right on their rear wings. We should get back to racing at the end of this lap and get action back underway. And, yeah, well, this could very quickly turn into a four-way fight for the lead. We'll see if the likes of Luca Lib, who is fighting with 6 seconds of penalties granted, and the two Haas drivers, as well as Matisse, can find their way through on Spyros. We'll see if Spyros himself is able to hang on in there. His tyres, well, they're not going to be bad, but in these early laps, he's surely going to be at something of a disadvantage. And now, how does Spicer play the restart? Well, there are several options, of course. Well, the last sector isn't complicated technically. There's a lot of areas you can go for. Most drivers, I think, do like to run it to the line, although I don't particularly like that strategy myself. A friend of mine once told me it makes you less able to be unpredictable and catch other drivers off guard. So we'll see how Spicer does play this and how Francesco reacts. It is indeed safety car in this lap, and the McLaren man, of course, someone who was expecting to fight for the championship this season. Hasn't turned out that way, but certainly has a race win at hand to potentially avenge last season. Waving away at the front, we'll see where he goes.
Indeed, here we go then. The safety car will be in. It's just come around the final corner and be into the pit lane, and Spicer will decide when to go. Francesco will be watching and waiting to see if he can pounce early on, but of course this race is only going to be decided in 8 laps time. Spicer gets a great exit out of the last corner but does light up the rears, but he does catch Francesco off guard, but the Ferrari driver burning some energy to try and get close by the McLaren again, but he doesn't send it into turn 1, neither does YCN. It's all very calm across the grid as they all go single file through turns 1 and 2. Napel had a little look further back on Matisse but didn't decide to send it in the end, and it's all as you were as they head through the middle part of sector 1 now.
The first four staying very bunched up. That was to be expected. We'll see how it evolves further down the line. We have just under 8 laps to go here at Saudi Arabia, and it is Spicer leading from Francesco. YCN finally has an opportunity to get stuck into the lead fight. We'll see how that is going to work out. Certainly Spicer and Francesco will be hoping for more of a status quo and swapping the lead between them, but having a third car tucked in underneath them could make the life for the leading driver especially much more difficult, because you can get swamped in the DRS zones, and there's plenty of opportunity here. I mean, virtually the entire second half of this track is a DRS zone. We won't be getting it so early on this first lap, but next lap we will be getting it. Look at how close Francesco gets to Spicer, and likewise. And Spiros in 5th place, I have to say, he's managed to keep himself very nicely in contention, not coming under too much pressure. And well, the hards, you'd think, are only going to get better and better. To the outside looks Francesco on Spicer, and this is YCN's opportunity. He feints to the inside, covered off by the Austrian, who hangs on to that second place for the time being. But that is the threat that these guys have that they didn't have earlier. The hard charging Aston Martin in behind, looking for any which way to get through, and Spicer and Francesco are going to have to cover them off further down the field. We're getting action in. Oh my goodness, Spiros running wide. I'm not sure if he was tagged from behind, but he missed the entry to turn 1 and drops down a couple of places to P7 and further back too. We got more action in as Napel ahead of Matisse. Matisse has to yield on the entry to turn 3, otherwise he was going to find himself getting squeezed into that outside wall. He slots into 10th position in a race that has begun to unravel for the Ferrari man. Vettel moves past Luca as well. Not sure how that happened, but he is up to P5 and also chasing down the race leaders too. So Vettel coming alive in this race. It is manic behind, fairly calm at the front for the time being. Everything beginning to just try and settle down as they head into the final half of this lap. But now with DRS coming into play, how could this change the way this lead battle is going to be fought?
Yeah, Napel went for the inside of Matisse into turn 1 and got it done. He braked very late, nearly went into the back of Mattia Mango or Luca, whoever was in front at the time, but just about they survived. I think there may have been a tiny bit of contact, but they were just about okay. And here he comes again on Mattia Manga. The Haas driver has got some defending to do. Napel is on the warpath here, despite his track limits penalty. He looks to the outside.
Sorry, cut in. YCN, sorry, cut in, but he lunged Spicer into the final corner, but lost momentum himself, and now he's under pressure because Ivan Eskrig looking to the outside. Spicer gives the V-Corp the slipstream, but look at the closing speed of the Aston Martin. Spicer covers off very aggressively from YCN, who has to tuck in behind in 3rd position in the end. So Spicer already in that 2nd place. He is having to look behind rather than in front. Look behind though, they're still going at it. Mattia Manga is pinched to the inside of turn 3 by Slash, who looks to try and make use of those soft tyres in the early laps of the stint. Has Matisse right up in front of him in the Ferrari. Can the Williams driver carve out a bit of an opportunity to move into the points paying positions? We shall see. Of course, there are penalties to be served further up the road. Napel has been separated from the drivers in front as it stands. As Videk further back was looking at Mattia Manga too. Tom and Lakitu in behind looking to try and take advantage, but the race is splitting into 2 potentially. We'll see if Napel can try and claw his way back to Spiros up in front. Francesco actually fairly calm at the front, as it's Spicer who's having to absorb all of those attacks. YCN threw one up the inside of Spicer, managed to defend 3rd place in the end, but not getting that 2nd place. But he's going to continue to prod and attack Spicer, and well, the McLaren man is having to deal with a lot more than he was dealing with earlier.
Yeah, Mattia Manga got absolutely sent to the cleaners in the first part of this lap. He lost 4 positions in the first 2.5 corners, and there wasn't really much he could do about it. And that's another one as Viadek goes around the outside of the Haas driver for P12, but Mattia Manga keeps his foot on the exit, and in front as well. EVE Nico is into the top 8 now in his Mercedes. What a race he has had after a dismal qualifying session. He has clawed his way back into this, and if he can get DRS on Spiros, he is still very much in the fight for a top 5 position here or better. Still 4.5 laps left to go in this race, and anything can still happen. YCN putting all the pressure on Spicer, practically in the McLaren's gearbox through sector 1, and just about a tiny bit of contact as they went through, but no harm done. And Spicer now struggling to keep up with Francesco at the front. 8/10 is the gap. It was a poor first sector by Spicer's standards, and now he really needs to eke in the extra tenths in these next few corners to get the DRS. He has done. He's just about within a second, but he would have had his heart in his mouth for a few corners there. Matisse now with a time penalty as well, and it's all gone wrong for the Ferrari after such an exciting and fantastic first stint. He was my driver of the first stint, but it's all gone wrong ever since then, once after he came into the pits. And down he is in P10 and looking like he's not even going to score any points at all from this race. Meanwhile, Luca Lib just behind Vettel. Is he going to send it to the inside of the last corner? He is indeed. He goes for it. Vettel leaves him the room. Great racing respect shown between the two, but Vettel keeps his foot on the outside and keeps the place. Vettel having a great race in the Haas as well, after he had a really, really good race last time out as well, but just came unstuck with a pit lane speeding penalty. But he's up in the top 5 and looking to stay there.
Yeah, up 8 places in this race. Vettel, another superb comeback drive. Maybe you'll see if he can make this one stick in the last couple of laps. Currently P5 for the moment, and look at how close they are now for the top 8. Even actually all the way down the field, every single driver is in the DRS right now. That is just remarkable stuff. Nico was able to make that bridge, set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. Now looking at Spyros, and another great comeback drive too for the German, that Silverstone race winner, trying to take advantage in these last couple of laps. We'll see if he can carve anything more out. At the moment, looking at P7 with Lucas' penalties, can he get even more out of it? We shall see. So up at the front, Francesco leads Spicer. Spicer again is dropping back, but actually, of looking at his battery, he is saving ERS. That is what Spicer is doing. He's trying to build up that battery as much as he can. He has kept enough back that he can try and go on the offensive. Of course, it is a delicate balancing act because that YCN is oh so close, and also has a lot of battery to deploy in attack as Napple picks up a time penalty inside the points as well, and that could change the order substantially when the race does come to an end. So we head down the main straight, fairly calm up at the front. Nico trying to find a way through on Spyros, nothing doing then. The Red Bull late on the brakes into turn 27, holds on to the place. Nico gets a much better exit though, and now draws alongside down the main straight, and he's going to put the Red Bull in his mirrors. Nico makes up another possession into P7, but look at how close they are getting at the front. YCN swarming all over Spicer, but Spicer is doing everything he needs to do at the moment. He is under pressure, and of course he was nearly overtaken by the debutant earlier, but he's saving his battery, and I think he is waiting for the last possible opportunity to try and strike on Francesco. But Francesco himself also has a lot of battery to use, so up at the front you can still see this as the calm before the storm. Francesco and Spicer both making preparations, if you will, for the grandstand finish to come.
Nico is absolutely flying in that Mercedes, and the drivers up front don't necessarily know that. He is putting the pressure on and making the overtakes where they come. He had an amazing first into this race, and now he's having an amazing finish as well. What an exit he got there! Oh my goodness me, just about saves the car for the second time this race. He nearly ends up in the wall, but Nico is putting on a show today for the fans. What a drive he's having, and it's not over yet. There's still just over 2 laps to go in this Grand Prix. He could still make up more positions. He's a net P6 after Lucas' penalty will be applied. YCN now going on the offensive on NLR. Spicer goes round the outside into the final corner. Can he get it done? Spicer keeps his foot in on the inside and has a beautiful exit, but this is not what the McLaren driver needs, and now he decides it's time perhaps to go on the attack on Francesco. No, he doesn't, and could he regret it? YCN to the outside, they bang wheels down towards turn 1, and they're still side by side through turn 2. Francesco will be very happy to see this in his mirrors. They're still side by side to turn 3. Who's going to back out? Neither of them. YCN around the outside. He goes off the track to stay there. I don't know how Spicer's going to feel about that, but Francesco, I know how he'll feel about it. He will feel fantastic. 1.4 seconds is the gap, and he is looking like the favourite to win this race now. But what else could happen in this crazy fight for what is now P2? Nico got past Luca. He's into P6 as well. Still 1.5 laps left for him to make even more places up. What a drive he is having in that Mercedes, and what a race this is.
Absolutely stunning, and YCN in that carnage at turn 1 picked up end plate damage, and that's why he is under so much pressure in the roll. failing up behind him, looking for a way through. Matisse has slid past Spyros, trying to claw something back in what has been a tumultuous second half of the race for him. But you can see Francesco now breaking away. He is using all of his battery to put this race to bed. We could have another debut winner here. He is nearly 2 seconds to the good as they scrap on behind. YCN is waiting, and here comes Ivan Eskrig to the outside. Spicer breaks very early, gives it up, and now YCN is backing off, looking to try and give up the RS. Here comes Ivan Eskrig taking advantage, drawing alongside the McLaren, and they're both going to go around the Aston Martin. And look at Vessel too. They're all so close. Look at Nico with a huge run to the inside. Ivan Eskrig takes away that second position from Spicer. Look at Nico around the outside of Spicer. Gets alongside the McLaren towards turn 3. He has to yield though, otherwise that could have ended in tears. Evie Nico is in the fight for P2. What a drive this is turning out to be. Francesco has absolutely taken off and surely has the race win in hand, 3 seconds away after it has all erupted behind him. Nico at P4 waving around. I don't know if it's in frustration or intimidation. We shall see as he claws his way up towards NLR Spicer. Spicer trying to defend for all his worth and looking towards Ivan Eskrig too as there's yellow flags down there. Tom has gone off the circuit at turn 13 and brings a nightmare race to an end. And what could that mean for the championship? But nevertheless, we will look in front in the final half a lap then. Francesco is clear and away. What pace he has shown though to pull away so quickly from such class drivers behind him. But how does this battle unfold behind, because they are all absolutely nose to tail. Here comes NLR Spicer. Can he salvage a P2 and all the frustration draws to the outside of Ivan Eskrig? But look at Nico and look at Vessel. Vessel runs down a road on the outside. Ivan lunges Spicer into the final corner. Contact all around, even as YCM was trying to crowd around optioning. Francesco wins it, and to the lane it's a drag race. Spicer just holds on to P2, Nico P3, Ivan in P4. Look at the gaps, oh my goodness. Vessel in 5th place, another a great comeback try for the Haas driver too. YCN, what a race he had in P6. Oh my goodness, Ghost. What a finale we have had. And yeah, not sure, as you said earlier, that the racing IQ was on full display, but in terms of wheel-to-wheel racing, that was a race quite unlike anything I've ever seen.
Wow, what a race for the spectators and for us, Daka. That was incredible. Francesco with a debut win and so much carnage up and down the grid, but it was fantastic to watch, and the racing was incredible. What a brilliant drive from Spicer to hold off the others in the midst of all that. I cannot believe he managed to finish 2nd place after all that. It was an absolute disaster for his teammate NLR Tom, who yet again fails to capitalize on the absence of the championship leader, this time scoring no points at all. But what a win for Francesco, and what a podium and fastest lap for EVE Nico. I don't think there's any doubt about driver of the day today, Daka. I mean, Vessel had a fantastic drive as well. Don't count him out. Mention to him too. But Nico from last place gets a podium in Jeddah. How many times do you see that on a grid this close? What a drive that is from the German.
Absolutely, and it must be said too, at that last stint, because yes, the safety car brought him into contention, but he had to make overtake after overtake to claw his way back in. Oh, my results screen's gone off, so I couldn't run through the entire results in the end. But yeah, and by the way, I can already verify in the Discord we have several frustrated drivers after this race. I think, though, that was an inevitability after the action that we saw out there on the track. So yeah, I'll just, if I can try and look back at the stream, I'll give you a run through the results. Yes, so Francesco takes the win ahead of NLR Spicer, who well, maybe he didn't get the result he wanted, but I think he'll be relieved after a 3-wide finish over the line he managed to come out the right end of, ahead of Nico and Ivan. Vessel takes a P5 in the end ahead of YCN. Then Spyros managed to actually carve out a good result despite staying out on those hard tyres. He finishes ahead of Matisse, who somehow ends up with points after all that. Then Zweideg and Mattia Manga round out the points finishers. Certainly penalties were costly for a number of drivers. That could certainly be said for Luca Lib, who finished 11th on debut, so certainly not the debut he was looking for, but certainly made a good impression in this race. Nevertheless, then ahead of that, Napol and P12, Lakita behind that, then Slash and critically NLR Tom. Another nightmare race. Well, actually, by far, it must be said, his worst race of the season. Monaco, he came away with points. That cannot be said of this race, and well, how much? Well, it doesn't change anything as far as the top two are concerned, but it does mean that NLR Tom is going to be under substantially more pressure as Ivan Eskrig is the big winner in that championship fight out of this round.
Yeah, that's exactly what Ivan wanted. A bad race for Tom and a great race for him. Although it is going to mean Alex Marciano can race fairly comfortably for the last 3 rounds, or more so than he would have otherwise. He's got a 15-point gap with 3 races to go. He is definitely in the driving seat for this title, but as we all know, the last few races of a championship is where unexpected things can happen, and if Tom has had a poor race at Jeddah, then it can happen to Alex as well. So plenty of time for things to happen yet. We've got Vegas coming up as well, which is a very polarizing track among F1 sim racing drivers. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic ending to the season. The constructors as well is fairly close, so we've got plenty to watch. And well, I mean, who needs a championship when you have races like that anyway?
Honestly, the races this season, from start to finish, have just been stunning. I cannot believe some of the action we've been treated to, and well, that makes me look ever so forward to those last 3 rounds. Suzuka, Vegas, Bahrain. Make sure not to miss them. It is going to be a cracker. So out of this round, Alex leads away still, 86 points. NLR Tom on 81. Triska with that crash out, I imagine, as you said earlier, that probably takes him fully out of contention for the title. Ivan Eskrig will work his way just a little bit closer, I believe, will be on 65 if my maths is right. So still a lot of work to do, it must be said, and probably with very slim championship hopes, but he has done what he needed to do, I'd say, out of that round, and just worked his way that little bit closer with both the top 2 in the championship. Well, Alex not being here and Tom not coming away with any points, so we'll see how that is going to unfold next time out at Suzuka. Well, Ghost, I'm going to come to you quickly. Do you have anything more to add after what we've just been treated to tonight?
Goodness me. I mean, what more is there to add after that race? Yeah, just make sure you watch these final 3 rounds of PSF3, because I mean, if you thought that race was good, it's been like this all season long. There has not been a single dull race this season, and I really hope that continues into the last 3 rounds. Suzuka, what a track to come up to next time around, and there'll be plenty of drivers gunning for the top spots, as we've seen. Some new drivers as well up there, Francesco, YCN, and others all in the mix. So the championship rivals don't have it all their own way at all, and every race is so unpredictable. But yeah, Alex Marciano, in terms of points, is going to be feeling relatively comfortable, but he's still got to get through these last 3 rounds. We know how unpredictable, particularly Vegas, can be. And things can happen at Suzuka as well. Plenty of unexpected crashes I've seen there. I've seen a race leader who was leading the championship blow a tyre on the final lap and lose the championship in the past. So crazy things can happen at Suzuka, and I mean, with this grid, anything can happen at any track, to be honest. So tune in and keep an eye on these races. They are incredible, and I'm having a blast commentating on them with you, Daka.
Likewise, and of course, well, fond memories for us for Suzuka, which was our first race commentating together, and we've talked about grandstand finishes tonight. Well, that was certainly another one between two title rivals last season, Fraser and Kuhlman, of course. So we'll see if Suzuka is going to bring us more of the same, because that was another absolute corker of a race last season. We'll see if that is going to be what we're treated to next week, but we're going to have to wait and see until that does come to pass. So Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you all very much for watching once again for PSF3. Thank you once again to GT Omega for making all of this possible. And yeah, just thanks all round. This is an absolute pleasure for me to be involved in every single week. So, I think with just about everything said and done for the 9th round of 12 here in PSF3, Season 38 of PSGL. It is for myself and Ghost. Goodbye for now, and until next time, we'll see you later.